Welcome to Kickin' with the Rickens, redefining retirement. Gerry Ricken and Heidi Ricken Provost want to help you retire with purpose and live with joy. Find more information, including how to reach the team, in today's show notes. Now, Kickin' with the Rickens, powered by Ricken Financial.
Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for listening to Kickin' with the Rickens podcast. We are here with retirement planner Heidi Ricken Provost and licensed insurance professional Gerry Ricken. My name is Mark Owens. We invite you to get more at rickenfinancial.com. You can get all the information here in the show notes. Thanks again for subscribing. Now, let's get to the show. And the pageantry, the joy, the love that we have for baseball, it is back until our teams go on a losing streak, and then we hate baseball. How y'all doing this weekend?
You know, life is good. More important, how are you, Mr. Braves?
You know, there is something called muscle memory. So Heidi is mentioning I work for the Atlanta Braves, and I was with the team for 16 seasons as the in-game host. Those are my big fake teeth on the big screen in between innings, giving out prizes and talking to the players, and took a couple of years off and then returned at a part-time basis this season. But man, there is a muscle memory when it comes to game day. And between all the rehearsals and the schedules and getting back into the grind, I realize I am not 25 anymore. Or am I 35, or am I even 45 anymore? My body hurts.
Well, I'm just excited and honored that I finally got to be a part of my dad and my sister's annual tradition of going to opening day.
You know, there's nothing like hearing "Here Comes the King" and seeing the Clydesdales go around the ballpark, and then having all the Hall of Famers join afterwards.
Yeah.
And the pageantry around Cardinals opening day is truly amazing.
We are still a baseball town.
Yeah.
We are.
Man,
We are.
No, yeah, look, win or lose.
Even though we haven't made the playoffs since 2022, we're going to say, all right, let's make 2026 our year.
Let's go, boys.
I think there is a lot of healthy respect between Cardinals fans and Braves fans. Like, we all hate the Yankees. We all hate the Dodgers. You know, I hate the Mets and the Phillies. I hate them all. But when I come to a Cardinals game, and I've been to one with you guys before, I really enjoyed it. I enjoy the town. I enjoy the stadium. I enjoy the fans. I enjoy the pageantry. I truly appreciate the history and the respect that y'all have for baseball, because I think we share that with the Atlanta Braves.
It truly is a fan base that understands the game.
Yeah.
And appreciates the game and appreciates our opponents as well.
Yeah, it's true. And last year we were at a game and had the opportunity to talk to Chip Gerry for a little bit. That was a lot of fun.
That was so much fun, Mark. Oh my gosh. So, Mark is the unofficial, we coined him the mayor of the Battery, which is kind of like our ballpark village, but out in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And, he used to work with Chip. So he brought us up into the booth and we got to meet Chip. And it was really cool seeing stuff from the inside too, because that was my first ever experience being up in the booth and seeing from that vantage point what they get to, take in each week. Super cool.
This was pregame, and there is just this beautiful chaos that is happening inside of a radio booth, a TV booth, because you're getting ready for the game. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of, production going on, but everybody's also very relaxed. The hospitality that they showed to us was really nice. And they were like, well, can we get you a beer? Can we get you a drink? We're like, no, y'all are working. We're just here to say hello. Like, y'all are treating this like a lounge in here. So, and I love having baseball back, and then inevitably injuries are going to happen, and then I hate baseball, but it's fun. For the
one day at a time.
Yeah, let's just hope for a great season for both of our franchises.
Amen. I totally agree. Hey, so speaking of, for a lot of baseball teams, they just have to get to the basics of winning games. And they just have to get the great Bobby Cox, a former coach for the Atlanta Braves, said, you don't have to win them all. You just have to win the series. That is your basic mentality when it comes to just going day by day in a very long season. That is almost like what you do as well. And I think this weekend here on Kickin' with the Rickens, I think we need to get back to the basics, starting at the very beginning, to help put that lineup together, to put that schedule together, to put a retirement plan together. So let's get back to the basics. And Heidi, where do we start?
So the funny thing is, one of the most common questions we get, if someone wants to retire one day, first of all, if you want to retire one day and you're not retired yet, you should give us a buzz at 314-207-6211, and we'll put the plan together for you to see if you can. But the first question we usually get is, where do I even begin? because a retirement plan covers all sorts of things. How much money you're going to spend and where's the income going to come from now that it's not coming from work anymore? And then are my investments in the right place? Am I even matching my risk tolerance? Do I know what I'm doing there? What about my health insurance and my long-term care and my legacy? And then, oh my God, I have to figure out taxation on top of all of that. That's the basic beginning of a retirement plan. But the first question you need to ask yourself before you even think through the money or anything else is, what do you want to do with your time? Mm-hmm. Because if you clock 30, 40, we have a client who just hit 50 years at her employer, which is unbelievable. Congrats, Kathy, on that. But, if you've clocked in 30, 40, 50 years somewhere, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're in control of your own time now, and you have to figure out what to do every day, we're creatures of habit. You're breaking your habit. What do you want to do every day? Because we believe that when you retire, you should do something that feeds your soul and brings you joy. So we need you to answer that question first, because we want to ensure that your entire retirement plan works towards those goals of what you want to do with your time. So once you can answer that question, then we get to have the most fun conversation you're going to have when it comes to retirement. What are we spending the money on? So the first step to a retirement plan is your expenses.
And most people, if you're like most people that come through our doors, they have no idea how much money they spend.
Yeah.
Or where it goes. They just know it goes.
Or they believe they spend a lot less than they actually do.
They truly do believe they spend a lot less. Yeah, we spend about $2,000 a month, and then we find out it's $8,000. So but that is one of the things that we focus on, because we want to make sure that we can build income plans to cover those expenses. So that's why we start with the expenses. Heidi always talks about, the old commercials about what's your number? What's your number? And I always talk about assets. How many assets do you need to retire? It's not about assets. It's about income to cover your expenses. And if you have income to cover your expenses, you pretty much have a lot of retirement planning solved. So, but the biggest key is, how much money do you spend, and how do you figure that out?
So that can be a challenge if you want to sit back here and do it the old way of building out an actual budget where you see, how much do I spend on this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, we don't really care what it is that you spend your money on, as long as it's going towards that purpose and you get to spend it on the fun stuff that you've saved so hard for. Mm-hmm. But, if you want to really figure out and get a good idea of what your monthly expenses look like, here's the easiest way to do it. Right now, if you're working, what's your take-home pay? Okay, so you figure out your take-home pay. Out of that, is anything getting set aside permanently that you're not touching in the future? If the answer is no, by the way, you're like every other American. If the money hits your bank account, you spend it.
Yeah.
That's great. We know what your expenses are. If the answer is yes, I do have some money set aside, the difference there, those are your typical monthly expenses for baseline of how we're going to start building out your expenses through retirement. I will tell you though, that's baseline, because there's something we all cannot avoid, and that would be inflation. So we always have to inflation adjust your expenses. But that's also your baseline, because, if you're working right now and you're going through the grind and you're doing all these things, you probably don't have the time to do the purpose that you want to do in your retirement world. So beyond your monthly expenses, what do we need to forecast out there, Dad?
One of the things we need to forecast out is, what else do you want to do when you retire? Do you want to travel more? You haven't been able to travel for the last 30, 40 years. If you want to travel more, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What is that going to cost? And we forecast all of those expenses out. The other thing we need to always think about is, what are your periodic expenses, not your monthly expenses, but your periodic expenses. Maybe you pay your insurances on a quarterly basis. You pay your real estate taxes on an annual basis. You pay, all those things that you need to think about that aren't automatically coming out on a monthly basis. We need to capture those. What about expenses that you've deferred? You deferred a lot of maintenance on your home. I'll get to that in retirement. Well, now it's time to forecast what those expenses are. Do you need a new HVAC system? Do you need a new roof? Do you want to redo the kitchen? How about the bathrooms? All those things add up, and we need to make sure that we allocate the funds on the side to make sure that we can cover that to feed your purpose.
And the big kicker that most people don't really focus on because they just don't think about it is a car.
Yeah.
We know how expensive cars are nowadays. I mean, it is crazy. People will be like, I don't want to spend this much money on a car, and sometimes when in the past, you used to be able to get a 2 or 3 year old used car and be good. But so we have to forecast that out in retirement too, because if you're 60, 65, even 70, chances are you're going to need at least one more car in your life, and you might need a couple more.
Mm-hmm.
So, and every single person we come across has a different idea of what a car means to them, how much they spend on it, if they're going to finance it or pay cash and all that too. So that's part of our forecasting too. We need to ensure that we're covering what you and your family want. And, maybe you need to upgrade that car to a truck because you're pulling a camper or something. Whatever it is, we want to build that out for you. But you asked the question earlier, Mark, back to the basics. Where do we begin? Our first point is, what is your purpose going to be in retirement? And how do you want to spend your time so that we can build out the plan and you can spend your time that way? And then the second is, how much money are we spending so that we can cover that with income, which we can dive in a little bit. But if you want to take advantage of our complementary purpose approach and put that all together, just give us a buzz at 314-207-6211, and we'll start the plan.
Yeah, it's a cliche. It's a phrase I say all the time, and y'all make fun of me. But I want to trademark it because it's great. As we're getting back to the basics this weekend. All right, y'all say it for me. What am I going to say right now?
Income is the outcome that matters most in retirement. Nailed it.
They literally just high-fived each other. We're so proud of yourself. All right.
So it's true, though.
So with that being said,
it is true.
Let's talk about income, because I don't know if you knew this or not. It is the outcome that matters the most in retirement.
It's true, though. Okay, think about it. If you didn't have income when you were working, why would you work?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then when you go to retire, the beautiful thing about retiring is that you don't have to clock in to work every day. You're in charge of your own time. But the challenge becomes, how do we cover your income needs? Because you still need money coming into you on a monthly basis.
Right.
So shall we just dive on in with the largest form of guaranteed income that people need to take a look at and optimize for their retirement, Dad?
Well, I think we should, and that is called Social Security. The Social Security Administration in 1935 came out with a plan, and it said for the aged and orphans and widows, we're going to provide a plan, and that plan was Social Security. And the benefits were supposed to be for people age 65 at the time. Life expectancy was 62. So 3 years after your life expectancy, you were going to receive benefits as a retiree, or they took care of orphans and widows at the time. Well, that plan has morphed over the years into America's largest retirement plan, a savings plan. And a lot of Americans, the only thing they have is Social Security to live on in retirement. And hopefully you aren't one of those. But if you are, God bless you. But if you aren't, we'd love to hear from you, because we have lots of ideas for you on how to plan for Social Security. A lot of people think you basically have 2 or 3 options on filing for Social Security. You do it at 62, you do it at 67, your full retirement age, or you do it at 70. You claim those benefits. Well, there are over 9,000 different options to claiming Social Security if you're a married couple. And people are blown away when they hear that.
If you hear nothing else this weekend, please listen to this. The day you retire does not have to be the day that you draw your Social Security benefit, because if you're trying to optimize the income for your family in retirement, those two don't have to go hand in hand. And that's why there are 9,000 different ways you can draw benefits, because it doesn't have to happen the day you retire.
And if you just think about what Heidi just said, do you want the government to dictate the day you retire? That's what you're doing when you claim Social Security on Monday after you retire on Friday. That never has to go together. And most times it shouldn't ever go together, because you're not optimizing what's best for you and your spouse if you're married, or for you as an individual if you're a single person. And let's just dive in a little bit and talk about what makes sense from an individual perspective. Well, what makes sense from an individual perspective is, what are you spending? How much have you earned on the side, and how much have you grown your assets so we can create income off of an income stream, an income plan off of your assets outside of Social Security? And are you earning more than a guaranteed 8% on those funds? And I said a guaranteed 8%. If you can find a guaranteed 8% account out there right now, please call.
With no risk.
Yes, yes. Please call 314-207-6211 and let Heidi and I know what it is, because that's what is happening when you defer your Social Security benefits. When you defer your Social Security benefits from age 66 to age 70, the benefit goes up a guaranteed 8% each year, plus the cost of living adjustment. And we have been having cost of living adjustments the last few years. About 12 years ago, we had zero because inflation didn't happen according to the federal government. But the cost of living adjustment is typically out there, and it's been 2.5% the last several years. So would you like to get a 10.5% guaranteed income increase on your Social Security benefits? Well, the people who deferred from last year to this year, that's what's happened for them. So we need you to focus on that as an individual. But if you're a married couple, what do we need to look at, Heidi?
An incredibly important benefit when it comes to the Social Security retirement income we're going to be living on in our retirement years would be called our survivor benefit. If you're in a married couple right now, chances are there's going to be at least one day where the two of you are going to have to navigate the world without one of the two of you in it. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of common misconceptions when it comes to that. And let's just break it down with Social Security for a second here. When one of the two of you passes away, the lower of your two Social Security retirement benefits will pass away with that spouse. So if your spouse had much higher wages in all of their working years than you, or if you had much higher wages in your working years than your spouse, from a family unit, it probably makes sense for the higher of the two wage earners during your working years to defer your Social Security income as long as you can so that your benefit is as high as it can be. So that in the end, if something happens to one of the two of you, you have the largest stream of potential income that could be paying to your family in the future. And, Gerry mentioned that 8% each year that it's going to grow. I look at Social Security a lot different than most people do. I don't see it as some nebulous benefit that pays you in retirement, because a lot of us think like, oh, okay, we put money into Social Security, we retire, we're just going to get some money out of it. It's just like this benefit that, we're going to receive. No, it's an investment you've paid into your entire working career. And what do we like to do when it comes to retirement? We want to optimize all streams of your investments and your income. So if you look at it like an investment, apples to apples with your other investments, we need to ensure that you're getting the most money out of this system as possible. Also, don't want to gloss over the fact we know that Social Security is a broken system. It's going to have some changes made to it so it can continue to pay. However, most retirees stay above the poverty line because of Social Security. So the two of us have a little bit more faith than most people that we're going to fix that issue. So when it comes to your Social Security, we have to do a break-even analysis in order for you to ensure that you're going to optimize Social Security income for your family. What does that mean? If you're single, we're going to run everything together, forecast out those expenses we talked about earlier, and then look at Social Security here so that you can optimize the benefit for you for the rest of your life and have the most guaranteed income possible. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know how long you're going to live, but we'll show you, on paper, what it's going to look like so you can make an informed decision. If you're in a married couple, we're going to do that same approach. However, we're going to do that break-even analysis with your combined lives, so that the two of you can make an informed decision as a couple too. But the gist here when it comes to Social Security is it's not one size fits all. So we'd love to run a Social Security timing plan for you so that you can make an informed decision instead of just blindly choosing when to draw your Social Security income in the future. If you'd like to take advantage of that, please give us a call at 314-207-6211, and we will put some time on our calendar to run a Social Security timing report for you so that you and your family can make some informed decisions when it comes to your Social Security. But Social Security is just the first step of income when it comes to your retirement.
I guess we can't reiterate enough that you really need to focus on Social Security and what the benefits are out there and understand what the nuances are and really take a deep dive with us to really, truly make an informed decision. Because some people will say, you know what, I've worked my whole life. I've paid into this system, both my wife and myself. This is a man speaking. And I just want to turn it on when I retire and be done with it. And that same person will say, but I want to leave the most amount of money to our children in the end as possible. Well, those go against each other, because if you're taking a lower benefit, you're using more of the money that you're going to leave to your children. So you just need to make an informed decision is all we're talking about. And the way you do that is through the Social Security timing planning. But beyond Social Security, if you are one of those people that is blessed with a pension, we need to take a deep dive into what that really means. What does your pension look like from an economic perspective? Is it financially secure? And if it is financially secure, what are your options? If you are a married couple, what are your options with survivor benefits? How much is taken back if you leave 100% for your survivor? What about 75%? What if there's a lump sum option plus a monthly option? There are all kinds of different options in these plans that you need to understand. And the best way to understand that is let us do the math. We are math nerds. We love to work on math, and we love to let you know what our options are. So let's just talk about what your pension looks like and make sure that you're making an informed decision. Because once you turn that pension on, and once you make that option known to your pension company, it's irrevocable. You cannot change it.
Much like Social Security, with one caveat. If you turn on Social Security and you decide, whoop, I didn't want to do that, within the first year, you can turn it off, pay it back, and defer it again for the future. But when it comes to that pension, you set it, you forget it, you're locked in. So those two streams of income are going to be the first two streams of income we really dive into when it comes to your income plan for your retirement years, your Social Security income and your pension income, if you're blessed with a good pension. However, that might not be enough to cover income for you in your retirement years. So when we get back from the break, let's talk about how we're going to cover your income needs outside of Social Security and pensions. But if you do have a pension plan and you don't know if it's financially solvent, you don't know how to even figure that out, give us a call at 314-207-6211. We'll stick that together with your Social Security and show you how to optimize those two streams of income at least before we dive into more.
Okay, so I felt like we had a good conversation about Social Security, about pension. But Heidi, as you just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, there are multiple other opportunities for income in retirement.
So that is true, because I wish that Social Security and pensions were enough to cover all of our expenses. But for most of us, it's going to fall short. That's not going to be enough. So we've already figured out what our expenses look like, because we've gone through the purpose approach here and we know what we're going to spend our money on in retirement. And then we're going to optimize our Social Security and our pension income. Where do we draw income outside of that? And that becomes a literal $1 million question sometimes in retirement. It could be a $100,000 question. It could be a $400,000 question. It could be $1 million question, depending upon your expenses and your retirement world. Gerry and I want to dive into so many different types of income that we can pull from in your retirement, because here's the thing, like everything else, it's not one size fits all. Every single person we meet with is going to have a different answer for how they're going to cover their expenses in their retirement years with some form of income. You might have enough guaranteed income to cover everything. You might not have enough guaranteed income to cover everything. So where can we pull these streams of income from? Because that 4% rule back in the day, where you just stuck money in your IRA and you can pull 4% out each year and you're going to cover it for the rest of your life, is completely outdated. And it's like everything else, it's not one size fits all. So we need to have a plan in place for how we're going to cover our income. Well, there are so many different streams of income you can pull from in retirement. And the first one I'm going to talk about is probably going to make both of your heads spin, because you did not think that this was going to be coming from me. But maybe you have rental properties. Okay, so you could have rental income coming into you in your retirement years. And that may or may not be a great way to cover your income, because we all know, if you've been a landlord, your renters are only as great as your renters are.
Yeah.
And it takes one bad egg to ruin the whole thing. But if you have rental income coming in, that could be another stream of income for your retirement world. But then outside of that, investments that you've set aside for the future, how do you pull income out of that? There are so many different ways we can do that. The first would be an annuity. So we talked about annuities actually in our last segment because we just talked about pensions. And that's what an annuity is.
And
It's
Social Security.
Yeah, it's money that you set aside. This type of annuity, not all are equal, by the way. And there are so many different types out there. But right now, let's talk about a fixed index annuity that has an income rider on it. So here's how this works. You're going to set money aside. And in this plan, it's going to grow and pay you a stream of income for the rest of your life. And if you're married, you can choose it to cover both you and your spouse for the rest of your lives. Even if your account value goes to zero, it'll still pay you income. You can set some of these things up too, so that if you need that long-term care coverage in the future, it can double your income too. But it's another way to turn on a guaranteed stream of income in your retirement life. But the caveat here would be you have to have some time to set it aside before it starts paying you, because if you stick it in the account today and want to turn on the income tomorrow, that income's not going to go as far for you.
And there's another kind of annuity that you can talk about too, and that's a single premium immediate annuity. So Heidi just talked about having some time for the fixed indexed annuity. Maybe you could take a little portion of your money, put it in, and it immediately the next month starts paying you income. And that's a single premium immediate annuity. You put one premium in, you turn it on for 3, 5, 7 years. Then the other annuity that Heidi just talked about can kick on. So that's called laddering annuities. It's like laddering CDs back in the day. A lot of people have laddered CDs, 3, 6, 9 months, and then they just keep rotating and rolling those things on. So that's one way you could do it. Another thing you could do is, I mentioned CDs. CDs sometimes can be certificates of disappointment. It depends upon the interest rate out there with the Federal Reserve rate. So those could be an option for you as well. And just taking the income off of interest-bearing accounts on a monthly basis. But your interest has to be high enough. And if your interest is high enough, guess what? Your inflation is usually high enough too, and it offsets that. So that may or may not be your best option. But what else is available out there, Heidi?
So if the interest rate of your CD is not paying enough for you, then you might look into something kind of similar, but a little different, called a structured note. So, our CD rates are based upon our interest rate environment in our government, in our country right now. Our structured note rates are based upon that, plus they involve some form of investing. So usually they're about double what a CD rate might be paying. There's a little bit, if you're going to use a structured note to cover income for you in your retirement years, there's going to be some risk involved here because it's invested in the market. But, it's one way to kind of ladder and maybe turn on a different stream of income there as well. And not all are created equal, but there are a ton of different types of structured notes that you can utilize in your retirement years. Some pay an automatic percentage on a monthly basis. Some pay a percentage at the end of the year. And there's so many different things you can look into to help cover. If you want to try to earn some more money on that money too in your working years, you can ladder that in. Well, beyond that, how else can we cover our income?
Well, one of the things we can do is take some of those assets and put them into a dividend-paying portfolio, investing in companies that pay dividends on a quarterly basis. When you do that, you can structure it so that you can build that dividend income on a quarterly basis and handle your expenses that otherwise may have a shortfall. The fear of doing that is during COVID. We all remember those days. During COVID, a lot of companies just said, okay, we're not paying dividends anymore. We don't know what's happening in the world, so we're going to shut off dividends. Well, the people who are relying on that for monthly income or quarterly income were in a world of hurt because they had to restructure their portfolio. So a lot of these things are really working in tandem with one another. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and just use a dividend paying portfolio or use an interest bearing account or use an annuity. It may take a blend of all of these so that if something does occur, that you can actually be prepared to adjust. And when we do our plans, we make them flexible and we can adjust those on the fly. But talking about our plans, the way you do that is you just start by calling 314-207-6211, and we will develop that plan, that income plan, and we'll open all these options up to you so you understand really what your options are and your opportunities are to cover your income.
So those are just a few of the streams of income we can turn on in retirement. Let's talk about a couple others. What about bonds? The bond environment is designed so that it should be paying you a percentage off of your bonds. So if you stick money aside for the future and the percentage off of your bond income is enough to cover your expenses, that could be a great way to cover your expenses as well in your retirement world. And beyond that, what if you just want to make as much money as possible and you're not risk averse, you kind of like to gamble a little bit? You can stick your money in a capital appreciation investment. So maybe you invest for as much risk as possible and you might make, I don't know, 10, 12, 40% off of your investments. You can pull some money off of that too, but that's not as stable as some of our other forms of income, and that would be in emerging technologies or investing in something like, Bitcoin, if you really want to gamble, but there are so many different things that you can invest your money in that pay a decent rate of return too, that you could then turn into income if you wanted to in the future. But when it comes to your retirement, like Gerry said, this is not one size fits all. It's figuring out which different forms of income are going to come pay you from which bucket. And you probably need to have something in your portfolio, have a little bit of risk associated with it because inflation is going nowhere anytime soon. So if you turn on your income the day that you retire and it's enough to cover your expenses, then it's not going to be enough to cover your expenses for the rest of your life. We're going to have different streams of income we turn on at different points, or we need to ensure that your income is inflation adjusted so that each step of the way in retirement, you just get to sit back and enjoy your retirement and you don't have to worry about where the income is going to come from when inflation rears its ugly head, or something might happen that we may or may not have planned for to increase your income needs. Right. There are so many different ways that all of these different types of income are going to combine so that we can always ensure you have enough income for you and your family in your retirement years. But every person we meet with is going to have a different answer for what that income is going to look like. With one exception, we want to ensure that it's going to be the outcome that matters most in your retirement. And we, as Rickens, believe that as long as you have blood pressure, you need guaranteed income to cover your expenses. So we're going to put together a plan that's going to cover you as long as you're around. And by the way, those plans go through age 100, whether you're going to be here or not. We want to plan for that. So if you want to start that plan and ensure that you have enough income to cover you in the event that you need it in your retirement years, let's chat. Give us a call at 314-207-6211, and we'll start the purpose approach with your income plan.
And this week we've been talking about bringing it back to basics and your retirement strategies. And I think now we could spend a couple of minutes talking about the purpose approach, which we talk about every weekend here on Kicking with the Rickens, and how it all comes together with how you build the purpose approach, Heidi.
So we talked about our first step here because, your question was, if we're getting ready to retire, where do we even begin? So the first answer is, what do we want to do with our time and what's our purpose going to be in retirement? And then we talked about, we need to ensure you kind of know what you're going to spend on a monthly basis. And here's the thing. All of this is flexible and fluid because life changes. Every single day, life changes. So the plan that we start with is not going to be the plan that you live the rest of your retirement world utilizing because life's going to change over the course of time. Mm-hmm. But the first step is, okay, how much do we think we're going to be spending expense-wise? And then how are we going to cover that with our income? But that's really just the tipping point of a retirement plan because, yes, income is the outcome that's most necessary when it comes to your retirement. We need to ensure that you have income that is covering your expenses, but that's not it because we mentioned a couple things earlier. Inflation might hit. What if you need long-term care? What if your health needs change? There are so many different things that can factor into your retirement world that are beyond just expenses and income. And a retirement plan is going to cover more than just your expenses and your income. It's going to cover your health needs, your long-term care needs, your life insurance needs or wants, your legacy planning and your taxation. And when you add all of these things up, that's what we call our purpose approach. And it truly is a retirement plan that's built out for you in particular so that your needs, wants, desires, everything is covered through age 100 with a plan of some sort for how we're going to cover it. So beyond expenses and income, Gerry, what's the next step here?
Well, the next step is, what about your health care? When we look at health care, and a lot of people say, well, I really don't want to wait until age 65 to retire. Well, if you don't want to wait until age 65 to retire, probably your biggest hurdle is, how do you cover your healthcare expenses or your healthcare insurance until you are Medicare eligible at age 65? So we take a look and see what's out there for you. Maybe it's a COBRA plan with your current employer, and you can do that for an 18-month period. You could retire at 63 and a half and have coverage through 65 with the same coverage you always had with that employer, and then move right into Medicare, which is a very smooth transition. It may not be the most economical, but it may be the most economical. We don't know until we do that evaluation. But beyond that, what are your Medicare needs and wants? And who are your doctors? What kind of medication are you on? We match that up with what's available in the Medicare marketplace. Obviously, we will sign you up with Part A and Part B through the Social Security website. That's how you get to Medicare. And that's the government sponsored. You've paid for it through your payroll deductions your entire life. So I call it government sponsored, not government provided, because you provided it, but the government sponsors it. The government runs it for us.
And then you still have the pleasure of paying for it in your retirement years as well,
even though it was withheld from your paycheck. But I digress. But we also need to figure out, are you more suited for a Medicare Advantage plan or a supplement? So we evaluate all that with you and just expose you. That can be very, very confusing for a lot of people, because you've never done an evaluation of Medicare before. And it's a quadre of numbers or letters, A, B, C, D, E, all these different kinds of plans. We break it down very simply and just show you what it looks like, make sure that you make an informed decision, and make sure that you are covered the way you want to be covered with respect to your doctors and your drug plans.
So we have your income covered. We have your health care covered. Well, what about your assets? Shouldn't you have those covered the way that you'd like them to be exposed to risk and the way that you'd like them to be exposed to a more safe alternative? When we have a correction in the market, if your assets are exposed beyond your comfort of risk, that's the point in time you're going to feel some pain. So we're also going to take you through a little bit of asset planning here, or investment planning, to ensure that your investments that you have your money saved in for your retirement years are matching the risk tolerance that you're most comfortable with, so that you can ensure each step of the way that you can sleep at night and know that if we do have a market correction, you're not going to feel that pain if you're matching your risk tolerance. But if you're not matching your risk tolerance, that's the point in time that the pain can really come in and hit you in your retirement years. Then we're going to take a look at long-term care coverage, because Gerry mentioned health insurance, but that's just one health expense that we're exposed to in our retirement years. Retirement is the point in time we get older. And just because we're getting older doesn't mean we're living healthier. It just means we're living longer usually. So how are we going to cover long-term care if we need it? The first step is, what type of long-term care do you want? So if you needed someone to come in and help you, whether you have cognitive decline or you can't do some of your activities of daily living, what do you want that coverage to look like? Then we're going to help ensure that you have a plan built out to cover all of those needs in the event that you do need some form of long-term care in your retirement years. The most important decision here is, what type of care would you like, so that we can ensure that you have access to that and control over that care, whether you're making those decisions in the future or not. We want to ensure that it's matching what type of care you would like in the event that you need it.
Then we look at, what about life insurance? When people say, well, I don't need life insurance because my mortgage is paid, the kids are all educated, they're out of the house, and all of our debts are paid, so we really don't need life insurance anymore. It isn't about needing, it may be about wanting, because life insurance has so many different benefits than anything else in the Internal Revenue Code. It's treated differently. You put money in, you can grow it tax-free, you can pull it out tax-free, and you never pay tax on it again. There are very few limitations. The limitations that are out there are because sometimes it's just too good to be true, so the IRS put some limitations on it, how much you can put into a plan. But there are tax opportunities and guaranteed income opportunities in these plans that we didn't really focus on in our earlier segment when we were talking about cash flow and the need for additional income that maybe not necessarily be covered by Social Security or pensions that are available out there as well.
So maybe you want life insurance or need life insurance for the death benefit, and maybe you want to utilize it for some living benefits. Well, either way, you mentioned, leaving some money aside for the future. And if there's a death benefit associated here, we need to ensure that it's working in your legacy plan. Because first step is making sure you are okay during all of the years that you're going to be here with us. But the next step is ensuring that your family is going to be okay too. And we're going to take a look at, if you have a trust or a will, let's make sure the beneficiaries are structured properly and that you fully have funded your trust and are covered there. But at each step of the way, your legacy should be the most tax efficient manner possible. So, we want to ensure that the people you love in this world get the most out of your beneficiary assets in the future, and that the IRS is not your largest beneficiary. So when we look at this purpose approach here, we have your income and your expenses after we know what your purpose is going to be in retirement. Then we want to ensure that your assets are covered with that investment plan. Your health insurance needs are covered with that health plan. Your long-term care coverage is there. Life insurance would be there. And we're going to have to tie it all together with taxation, because the day you retire, the IRS does not retire with you. So we want to ensure that each step of the way, you're doing everything from the most tax efficient manner possible, because there are ways that you could be a little bit more tax efficient in your retirement, but it just takes a little bit of planning to do so in the future. We tie that all together, and that, my friends, is what we call the purpose approach. So we'd love to walk you through the purpose approach. If you have at least $500,000 saved for retirement, that's really the sweet spot of where that tax efficiency especially is going to make a difference. So give us a call at 314-207-6211, and we're going to sit down and go through that purpose approach together, and we do so on a complimentary basis. So that number again is 314-207-6211. We'd love to walk through the purpose approach with you.
One of the things that Heidi and I believe in is that you are a better steward of your money than the IRS is. And I'll just leave it at that, Mark.
Say that one more time for me, Gerry.
I believe that all of you out there listening are a better steward of your money than the federal government.
And as Heidi just put it, the IRS doesn't retire when you do. Always thinking about your taxes to and through retirement with the team at Ricken Financial. Well, Gerry, Heidi, thank you. As always, thank you for the information and the education. We are back next weekend, but before we get out of here, take us home.
Every day is a holiday.
Life is short. Laugh hard.
This has been Kickin' with the Rickens, redefining retirement.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Ricken Financial LLC. Ricken Financial LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Ricken Financial LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Ricken Financial LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Ricken Financial LLC.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Tax preparation and tax advisory services are offered through Ricken Financial. These services are not offered by IPW and are not subject to investment advisor requirements. These services referenced are an outside business activity not offered through or supervised by IPW.